I choose to work. I choose the time of the day when I have to work. I choose the length of hours that I have to work. I choose to give a ride. I choose to refuse a ride. And in the end, of course, I make money. But that can happen. There are various platforms that can help you do that. There are various platforms that can actually help you, assist you, create a profile as a giga. Right? So automatically, the independence of work shifts from a company to typically the individual. You're looking at diversity of things, and all that diversity pulls you up and reduces the risk factor that your income might face because of anything that exists. That either you are a businessman, either you are an entrepreneur, and you create employment, or you are an employee. You work for a firm, you work for somebody else, and you generate profits for them. Today, I'm going to discuss with you a third option. We are going to discuss if the guarantees of time, the guarantees of remuneration can be challenged in employment. And it's not something new. This is something that has been happening in the world for some time now, but it is slowly coming into India because in India, there was always this culture that you are either an employee or you are a lala. But now things are changing. Now industries are changing. Industries are looking at newer ways to employ people. Today, my dear friends, we are going to discuss one such new way of employment, a way which can actually help you by being an individual and still not having the risk of entrepreneurship. Definition, and this definition has been taken from Oxford Languages. A gig economy is a labor market characterized by the prevalence of short-term contracts or what is called as freelance work as against pure contractual employment, which is over a stipulated longer period of time, or permanent jobs. So this, by definition, this is a gig when you are hired numerous times by different companies or different individuals to do similar set of tasks, which you do anew for each and every one of them. Let me start off by explaining to you, you've all heard of this company called Uber, right? One of the biggest taxi brands in the world. Now, if you actually ask an Uber driver about how much freedom that person has in his choice of work, the answer would be something like this. I choose to work. I choose the time of the day when I have to work. I choose the length of hours that I have to work. I choose to give a ride. I choose to refuse a ride. And in the end, of course, I make money. This is a very simple example of how a gig works. The idea behind a gig is that an individual should be able to govern his own lifestyle in terms of work. Now, this creates a lot of freedom. Need not be tied down or bogged down by one company, but they can also make the kind of revenues that an entrepreneur makes. Does this feel too good to be true? Well, it's not too good to be true because this exists. This has been in existence for quite some time now. Only in India, now people are waking up to this idea. People are waking up to the knowledge of the fact that they can actually work on their terms and not on somebody else's terms. So let me just talk about what actually makes a gig zag, right? First of all, a gig in itself is a growth pattern. So for example, if I become a gigger and I start working on certain gigs, right? I will choose my skill set, and based upon my skill set, I will try and push people to purchase what my skill set specifically is. Now I do one task, I gain some experience. That experience will add on to my value as a gigger, right? So I work, I gain that experience. That experience gives me certain knowledge that adds my value as a gigger. And then the next time when I do that task, one, I do that better. Second, I have more value, which means I get higher remuneration. It's a very simplified option, of course. It's a very simplified way of looking at it. But understand that this actually happens. Let me give you my own example. you can all write this down. There is this website called as Upwork.com. Upwork is a website that typically deals with getting writers, most importantly, uh, any kind of gigs. And one of my friends who does this, he started off by writing content for people he had no idea who they were. He wrote about different things. He wrote about wildlife saving. He wrote about environment. Then he went on to write about certain advertisements. He just wrote, and every time he wrote, he was able to put a small portion of his project as a part of his next bid for whichever job he was trying. Steadily, people started appreciating the fact that he had taken a lot of jobs, and his value and the value of his gigs started improving. The base value you can work at on Upwork is at $3 US dollars an hour. Today, that man easily asks up to $15 an hour, depending upon the amount of work that he's putting in for them. $15 an hour is more than possibly a person makes working in a restaurant or a hotel in the United States. That is what is one of the reasons why gigs today are becoming more and more important, or becoming more and more popular with the life circles. It gives a lot of freedom to the individual. Think about it. A person who's actually running a gig, that person decides when he has to do his gig. I'll take a very simple example and something that you can possibly relate to. You know, the initial use of the word gigs was, as my friend who's present with us told me, comes from musicians, because they would work whatever work they were doing, and then in the evenings, just to earn some extra cash, they would go about trying to find out gigs where they could perform. DJs still use that term. Look at a DJ's life. Not all DJs are directly associated with a pub or a restaurant or a bar or a hotel, right? They sometimes have to work only weekends when they are invited to a special event. Does that mean that they are not able to make a livelihood out of it? On the contrary, they are actually able to make more than most of the other people. This, actually think about it. The DJ chooses which day will he perform. The DJ chooses whether he will work with a certain brand or not work with a certain brand. Think about the kind of independence that DJ has when he decides his work. Of course, for that, the DJ has to have his own brand image in the world, but that can happen. There are various platforms that can help you do that. There are various platforms that can actually help you, assist you, create a profile as a gigger, and you can actually become a popular one. There are various websites, there are various applications which actually help you in order to support you, or you can actually get a lot of gigs from these apps because they collate different job roles that are available. Right? So automatically, the independence of work shifts from a company to typically the individual. That is something that's very, very good about a gig, because a gig is not company centric. A gig is person centric. And this is going to make a lot of sense, particularly at this time, because it reduces the risk of income loss. I mean, think about it. A lot of people, I mean, I'm giving you the database from April 2021. April 2021, since the beginning of the pandemic, by April 2021, about 7.5 lakh people lost their jobs in India. That was a problem with the job economy. If you are a gigger, there are multiple employers that you're looking at. It's not one single work, it's not one single company, it's not one single brand. You're looking at too many things. You're looking at a variety, you're looking at a diversity of things, and all that diversity pulls you up and reduces the risk factor that your income might face because of anything that exists in this world. Tomorrow, a company might close down, but that does not mean that you will be in trouble because you have other companies to look at. Tomorrow, a natural calamity may happen in one particular geographical area. You have other companies to look at. Tomorrow, a natural calamity may happen in one particular geographical area. But again, you have the idea of diversity if you are a giga. So it helps you reduce the possibility of a risk in terms of job loss and in terms of any kind of income loss. And this may come as a surprise, but a few gigas actually get paid more than contractual employees or permanent employees, sometimes for even lesser working hours, because they have very specialized skill set, which is utilized for a specialized goal. And if that goal is met, automatically the giga holds more value to the company for that small amount of time than any other employee. And that makes having gigs a very interesting concept and something that is being introduced in India. See, in a non-standard fashion, we already had the concept of gigs. We did not call them that. I'll leave that to my special guest today to speak about it. But I'm just telling you that such a thing actually plays out. There is an option. There is a third option, boys and girls, which goes beyond the idea of employment and the idea of a businessman or an entrepreneurship.